This was October 30th that we were in our clinic in Kelowna, BC, Canada. We were doing our missionary work, essentially, and we had police and Health Canada show up to essentially steal all our healing medicine. And their rationale was that I didn't have a license number on my medicine. So they took, mass amounts of my supply that we were sending out to people to help them with their vaccine injuries and cancer.
To August of last year, nobody really knew who I was.
There's about 12 people who are producing 65% of anti-vaccine misinformation.
We need to come together as Americans and realize that we have a war at hand here.
Right? Like, dude, how scared of this shit do you have to be to be wearing gloves, a face shield, a mask at this point?
Help us to urge folks and say to them, look, it's time to roll up your sleeve and get the shot.
Chiropractor in Omaha, Nebraska, responsible for 65% of the anti-vaccine misinformation. Put what I say to the test. Just don't write me off as crazy misinformation.
Doctor, please bring yourself in order.
600,000 people will die of cancer. 300,000 people will die of obesity this year. When is enough enough?
Svetlana, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Ben. I'm wonderful and beautiful Uvita, Costa Rica. Thank you for having me on your platform.
Yeah, Pura Vida.
Pure Vida. Life is good here.
Oh, man. I fit in a suitcase. Next time you go out there, you got to let me know.
Well, I'm working hard so I can have a place here, and you and your family are welcome here anytime.
I'm super excited to be sitting down and talking with you. There's so much that we can talk about. I feel like you've been a sister from another mister. You've been one that has stood in the gap. So we're going to dive into, just a conversation today about your story. I want the people to get to know you, know your mission, and Ezra Healing, what it's all about. And how you got on this journey. So I wanted to start with just really giving you the next couple of minutes of just kind of telling the people how you got into this fight and where it all began.
Yeah, 100%, Ben. So my name is Svetlana. I've been a former registered nurse in BC, Canada for 25 years. I went into the healthcare profession to help people. 2021 came about and I was terminated for refusing the harmful COVID-19 vaccine. That's really where, my story began. A year before that, I was just seeing so much harm happening in our clinics, in our doctors' clinics. So many people were coming in being post-vaccinated and they had so many injuries and harms. And I just could not stand by one day longer and watch this happen. When you're on the Medical Matrix platform, it's really difficult to bring out solutions. So I decided to leave the BC healthcare system. I was in fact terminated for refusing the vaccine, along with 4,000 other wonderful healthcare providers.
Wow.
And at that time, I decided to start Ezra Healing and help implement the long-term solutions of do no harm model of healthcare. So, fast forward a few months, I lost custody of my two small children for refusing to vaccinate them. I was married to a family doctor for 20 years, and he was really going along with the narrative, thinking that vaccines were safe and effective. And I lost custody of my children and they went on to get vaccinated. So, I have been in the trenches of this, battle to bring light to the harms of the vaccines and, so many other interventions that the medical matrix uses to destroy our healing and our health truly. So, I've been in the private entrepreneur space for 4 years now. And we have a very large following that we like to call our Ezra family. And these are just truly people who, were essentially manipulated into taking the vaccine, and we're there to help bring solutions to them. So that's essentially what I do. Many of these people have, turned into a turbo cancer diagnosis, and we are there to support those people.
Well, Svetlana, there's so much to talk about here. There's so much to unpack. I want to go back to just the kind of the scenario were you working in a doctor's office, a hospital, or just a?
The last 5 years, I was in primary healthcare, which was a doctor's office setting. Yeah, I worked with 3 family doctors, and I was one of the primary healthcare nurses, and we would do a lot of essentially the doctor's work, a lot of chronic disease management, a lot of women's health. We saw a lot of children. We gave out vaccines there as well, not the COVID-19, but they say a tetanus shot. But essentially, I'm an intensive care nurse. That's my formal training. I'm an emergency room nurse. So critical care is truly my comfort zone. I have a Bachelor of Science in nursing, but critical care is where I started my career. So I've seen all types of nursing. I've worked on many different healthcare teams. So yeah.
And so this was in Canada, correct?
It was in British Columbia, Canada. I was
Yeah.
working at the doctor's office, and this is when the mandate started. Yeah.
So tell me, what injuries were you seeing, Svetlana, during the COVID time?
Anything from dizziness, headache, ringing in the ears, loss of sensation in taste and smell.
Now, this is post vaccination.
This is post COVID-19 vaccination. So imagine, our communities were rolling out the COVID-19 vaccine. Okay, and clear out, hockey arenas to put nurses in and roll out the COVID-19. So many people were getting vaccinations at that time. Shortly after that, we had a spike at the doctor's clinic of people coming in with mysterious symptoms that they've never had before. And I slowly began to see a pattern that people didn't have these prior to the COVID-19 shot. So I was putting, 2 and 2 together, and a variety of symptoms, including dizziness, headache, loss of vision, changes in sensations in their smelling and taste, paralysis, numbness and tingling in their extremities. And the most extreme case I saw, which was very impactful, it'll never leave me, was a 30-year-old physiotherapist that took 2 COVID shots to keep her job and keep her community safe. And she ended up in a wheelchair 6 months after her second vaccination. She was a triathlete, okay? She was a runner, a swimmer, a biker. 6 months after her second shot, she was in a wheelchair, suicidal. And the doctors literally just ghosted her. They just wanted to send her for test after test, and they had no idea why. I mean, as a nurse sitting there seeing this story, I knew exactly why she was sick. So there was a major disconnect with the truth. The doctors wanted to cover this up, whether they were doing it consciously or subconsciously. That's what was happening. There was no critical thinking going on. I was a very outspoken nurse. I said it how it was. I said, could this possibly be, a side effect of the vaccine? And I was absolutely shut down for that. So it was really, it was a blessing in disguise that I did
100%.
get terminated, because now, we get to start something new and fresh and be very open and transparent with the people that the COVID-19 shots were causing so much harm and so much destruction, and people are coming to terms with their injuries, and we're doing our best to find solutions. So we're there just listening to the people and acknowledging, the mass casualties that have occurred.
We'll be right back after a word for our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Ezra Healing, a leader in the emerging wellness paradigm taking shape across North America and beyond. People everywhere are recognizing that the old sick care model, quick fixes, symptom chasing, and surface level solutions simply isn't enough. Ezra Healing is a part of the shift toward truly patient-centered care that prioritizes well-being, integrity, and a do-no-harm approach. At Ezra Healing, your whole lifestyle, rhythms, and patterns are considered to better support the interconnected systems of your body. They're focused on real solutions, long-term health promotion, and prevention, an evolving grassroots movement dedicated to helping individuals and families live healthier and more resilient lives. If you're ready for a wellness experience that puts humanity first, Ezra Healing is guiding the way. To learn more, visit them at www.ezrahealing.com. And now back to the show.
And like you said, this was a blessing in disguise. It's terrible that people were losing their lives. Absolutely. But, Big Pharma overplayed their hand here. Medical tyranny is a real thing. And so they overplayed their hand, and it caused the soil for truth to be rich. And so many people are waking up to this whole issue in the corruption in the industry. But, I applaud people like you. It wasn't easy for you to go through the trenches, to go through the fires here. And this is why we're sitting down and having this conversation, because so many people need to hear stories like yours. I mean, you were terminated, you lost your job, you lost your career. You stood for the truth. You had integrity. You saw something that was going on that you didn't believe in, and you weren't going to go along with it anymore. So you spoke out. You were punished for that. You were persecuted for that. And now you had to go through this divorce with your the ex-husband, who was a medical doctor who believed in this narrative, and then I'm sure the judge thought you were a loon and everything else and decided against you, which is so evil. I see that more and more. And if you ever look at the Stanley Plotkin deposition, that the godfather of vaccinations, he did a 9-hour deposition and talked about how these vaccines are basically toxic. And I digress. But my point is, blessed are those who stand for righteousness. Blessed are those who are persecuted. God is blessing you in a big way. And, you stood for something, and I felt like it ignited something in you to really get louder in a good way, to keep pursuing the truth, to stand by your convictions. And I wish more people had that conviction. I wish more people would say, you know what, I have that conviction that's greater than my fear of persecution, my conviction that's greater than my complacency. And so many other nurses, like, in the field, what you saw, they didn't do anything. They might have had the same beliefs as you, but they were afraid to speak out. They were afraid to say something. The reason why I believe, you have this following and I have my following is because we stood by those convictions. There's a saying in our field, like, you never know how far-reaching something we may think, say, or do today will affect the lives of millions tomorrow. So how soon after we've been terminated, we go through these trenches, you decide, you know what, I feel this calling to start something. I just feel this calling to start Ezra Healing. So tell me about that.
In 2020, I felt the calling. It was already a seed planted in my heart that this is what my future looked like. So, I was creating it in my head for about a year. And when I saw termination to be, my destiny in the medical matrix, I really just, boots on the ground, did my best to become this blooming entrepreneur, going from, a 9-to-5 job to a 24/7 entrepreneur. And I started to live and breathe it. And I loved what I did, and I do what I love. It felt very, very natural to me. It was like a seed that was planted me, basically when I was born, just to help people. And I thought, I'm gonna get this helping people up and running in a massive sort of way. And fortunately or unfortunately, I didn't have much competition. I was hoping to have a lot of competition because I wanted everybody to see what I could see. But that's okay. I just did what I could, my part, my little part. And I think, planting one little seed can turn into a whole forest. 100%. And I think that's what, the viewers really need to, believe in themselves, that everything makes a difference. Every word of truth makes a difference. And the like you said, Ben, the soil is ripe for truth. And if we plant a seed of truth in ripe, fertile soil, you're going to get a beautiful crop. Amen. And it's having faith over fear. The Amen. Time is definitely now. The Great Awakening is here, and people are looking for, the OGs they know what's going on. And that's why I'm just such an honor to talk to you today, Ben, because you've been an OG not for 5 years, but for your entire career. You grew up in an OG home. So, you are a very, efficient leader in this. And I hope many people turn to you, because a lot of people want to do something. I believe that. I believe the people of the world want to do something and make, this corruption, held accountable, and make truth, rise. And I think if people can get behind leaders like us, we're the trailblazers. We don't mind getting the lashes and sacrificing. It's just what we were meant to do. So, get behind us, and we are the anchors, and we're going to do the work.
Amen. I mean, that's what it's all about. And this life is not what you gather, it's what you scatter. And, I feel like we share that same conviction. because we see a massive need for it, and we're here to serve in a big way. And it's kind of like damn the torpedoes. The torpedoes are going to come, absolutely, but we are going to say damn the torpedoes, and we're going to keep moving forward. We're going to have the thick skin in charge. It's like when a rhinoceros goes after something, it'll run through trees, and it doesn't matter if it gets poked by branches or not. It just keeps charging. It's like Mochichu. You move without hesitation. You just charge, and that's, I feel like, what Ezra Healing has done. You guys just said, damn the torpedoes. We're going to go in, and we're going to keep charging and keep moving forward. And it's something I want to touch on. You have still faced many torpedoes, and one torpedo here was recently. And the government came in, Canadian government, which is, the Canadian government, as you know more than anyone, has been probably one of the most tyrannical governments, especially during COVID. I mean, I had patients that were here in the U.S., excuse me, that lived in Canada, and they weren't allowed to enter into Canada without proof of vaccination. And so they said, well, screw it, we'll just stay here. And so that was a real thing. And then Trudeau, I mean, just his tyrannical measures, and he was a tyrant. I mean, even during the trucking campaigns, the truckers came up to Canada and they raised $3 to $4 million online, and Trudeau, they seized those funds and they had to go to Bitcoin. But and people think that the medical tyranny was just during COVID, but it's still very much alive today. I mean, again, and this is another warning for those who are listening. We cannot stay complacent. Edmund Burke said the only thing for triumph of evil is for good men and good women to do nothing, right? Complacency is the enemy here, and we can't stay complacent. If you're complacent in this, you're complicit. We have medical tyranny at our doorstep. If we stay complacent, we let them in the door. So just that being said, I know the government came in and raided you. I want to know, and this was recently. This wasn't 5 years ago during Corona Baloney. This was during just this fall.
This was October 30th that we were in our clinic in Kelowna, BC, Canada. We were doing our missionary work, essentially, and we had police and Health Canada show up to essentially steal all our healing medicine. And their rationale was that I didn't have a license number on my medicine. So they took, mass amounts of my supply that we were sending out to people to help them with their vaccine injuries and cancer. And I had a very, in-depth conversation with the health inspectors. I explained to them who I was, what I was doing, why I was doing it, why Health Canada dropped the ball. They were the ones who administered the vaccine. There's a lot of vaccine injuries in Canada. I'm helping these people with vaccine injuries. They did not care. They were so cold-hearted. They just literally, I felt, Ezra Healing got raped that day, which it essentially did. Not only did it affect me, but it affected so many Canadians that we helped. The tyranny is not getting better. It's getting worse. They're literally just barging in, and, they're showing a piece of paper that they wrote some words down, and, they're using full force. So it took us a while to move through that, because these are insults. These are big assaults on a healing organization that is just there to do no harm, and essentially picking up what the government should be responsible for, which is the biggest hurt. So we are resilient. We are good at comebacks. We are the underdogs. We know that truth wins. So we like a challenge. So we're doing our best to navigate through it.
There's a law in physiology. When we put the body under, obviously, stresses, the body adapts its physiology to meet that load it's under. But if you just look in life, going through hardships and adversity is how we get stronger as well, right? So all these things, these torpedoes come your way or our way, there's an opportunity for growth. Yes, it's not fun to go through those things. It's not fun to experience those types of things. But what I see in you is that this is growing you. This lit a fire under you, and I've seen it, and I've talked to you about it. How you guys are like, okay, this is an opportunity for us to expand and to have more freedom and control over this whole operation. So talk to me about that.
You know what happened, Ben? We got onto mainstream media. We had 3 major Canadian mainstream media organizations reach out to me for a comment, and I was able to get the words ivermectin, vaccine, injuries, and cancer on mainstream media. And that went out to so many Canadian households that people were sitting at home silent with their vaccine injury. They reached out to Ezra Healing. So, our ratings went up. So, in a way, I'm very grateful for what happened, because I'm not here. This was never about ivermectin. This was always about medical freedom, the right to try, and the truth about what the medical mafia is really doing to people under the umbrella of health and safety. So the tables were flipped, and this is what I love about our creator, that no matter what happens, we're going to alchemize the situation.
Right.
And we know we win this battle. Like, we just know in every DNA, in every cell of our body, that we win this. We were born to win. So we were born to battle. But yes, stress is real. And I think, we have to, give our bodies breaks from the battles. Every warrior needs a rest so he or she can go back out and battle. And that's why I'm in Costa Rica, just taking a little bit of a break. And we're coming, the comeback is going to be greater than the setback. And I'm super excited, and I'm very hopeful.
It's like there's a verse out there. How do you say it? What was meant for evil, God will use for good. And it's what has happened is that this is such a blessing. As for me being labeled one of the disinformation dozen, along with Bobby Kennedy, the President Biden called me on national television and said I was killing people. Yes, that was a crazy experience. And yes, it was a very hard experience. And, people came after me. They vandalized my clinic. They vandalized my truck. People broke in my home. They seized my accounts, all these different things. I've had threats, you name it. They seized my accounts, took my money. Those things happened. But there was such a blessing out of this whole thing. And that's, if people could understand that, when you stand for truth and when you stand for righteousness, you will be blessed. And this isn't a message of prosperity. This is just a God's word and a promise that he will bless us when we stand for righteousness' sake. But, but it is true. We do need rest. There's physical rest, there's spiritual rest. We just don't need that physical rest, but also that spiritual rest and that reset. And I 100% agree with that. It's like we all are that rechargeable battery. We all have the elements of health, the physical, the chemical, the emotional, the spiritual, all those different things. And every one of those, pillars of health is a bucket, and some of those buckets are completely empty. People are spiritually bankrupt, they're emotionally bankrupt, and so getting that rest and recharging is so healthy. But again, stress is the biggest epidemic of our time. We have more stress now than ever before. And I've heard stats, Svetlana, that the average person in today's world has more physical, chemical, emotional, and spiritual stress than our grandparents did in their lifetime. And some people might disagree with that, but if you look at the chemical toxicity, you mentioned vaccines and vaccine injury. We have more chemical stressors than ever before. Our food is nutritionally bankrupt. And you're in Costa Rica, I'm sure you're getting some of the freshest fruits out there, some tropical fruits, and some of the best coffee out there. I've had that in Costa Rica. But it is a real epidemic, and we are in such a crucial time in healthcare right now to take the reins of this mess and to be the leaders in healthcare. And so many people are blind to this. I don't know if you've ever heard of H.G. Wells, the book Valley of the Blind, but I feel like we're living in that time right now. And this is where I think that there's such a glorious opportunity, because so many people, the masses, are blind. But I feel like people are waking up to this. And I don't know what it's like in Canada, but what are your thoughts on that?
The Great Awakening is 100% here. I'm a critical care nurse, and I love trends. When you have a client in your ICU bed and you're looking at blood work every day, you're looking at trends to see if this patient is getting better, essentially. So I think we have the numbers on our side. Just look what, 4 years ago, we were quiet in our silos, and now we are leaders in our industry, essentially. I think all the hard work that we've done has paid off. I believe it's only going to get more and more intense. And, a lot of people are experiencing vaccine regret syndrome, which is what I've essentially named it, which is very stressful. A lot of people, maybe they didn't develop a physical injury, but they've developed a spiritual, psychological injury from being manipulated into taking a vaccine. And now there's so much information on how the vaccine is harmful. So these people are walking around knowing that they put something harmful in their bodies, or even worse, their child's body. So a lot of mothers and fathers are feeling very heavy, which is stressful, to the point of some children have developed, autism, or even worse, sudden infant death syndrome. So the stress is an all-time high, and I would love to see the stress come down in society, in humanity in general. So then if you and I can support humanity on lowering the stress level, lowering their cortisol level, so they can enjoy life again, they can enjoy their kids again, that we can get through this hump together, we're going to be better off as a planet. So I'm in it to win it, and whatever I have to do to reach people all over the planet, that's going to include probably some technology, and some wonderful supplements with a wonderful shipping process. We can reach everybody's home. We don't need brick and mortar buildings anymore traditionally. So I'm really excited to introduce a very specialized, for example, AI program where we develop and we help people, at a mass amount of level where the humans are in charge. I'm excited to, see what beautiful products are out there to help people at a cellular level. We have some wonderful diagnostic tests, that people can do right from the comfort of their home. So, wherever there was vaccines administered, I want to be there to help people.
Amen. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, again, we have a tsunami of vaccine injury. We have a tsunami of stress and stress-induced illness, and so it is a real thing, and everyone deals with it. Everyone experiences it, and we have to, and there are ways to combat it. I've been trying to educate people on stress for 2 decades. It's a real thing, and I've been helping so many other patients manage it, but it is a real thing, and it affects so many people. I mean, I think that 80% of Americans are suffering with chronic disease associated with stress. Poor lifestyle choices, all those things are a factor, and nobody's really treating it properly. I mean, I always use the illustration of a wilted plant. You look at a lot of these, doctors of the day, they want to cut off the leaves, they want to vaccinate the plant, and the wilted plant just needs water. And it can be well, and we're no different. I mean, giving the body what it needs and understanding that, God made our body to heal and to be well. And, I always say there's only one cause in all disease, and that's the body's inability to adapt to its environment. And there's one cure disease, and the body's ability to heal. And there's only one thing any physician can do, and that's to remove that obstruction to healing.
We'll be right back after a word for our sponsor. Today's episode is sponsored by Ezra Healing, a place devoted to renewal and deep-rooted well-being. Ezra Healing supports individuals and families in soothing the nervous system, releasing accumulated stress and trauma, and restoring the body's God-given ability to repair and thrive. Their method is gentle, discerning, and grounded in honoring how the body was created to function. With steady guidance, thoughtful education, and practical resources, they come alongside each person to foster safety, resilience, and whole person healing. If you're seeking a space to breathe, rebalance, and truly heal, Ezra Healing offers a powerful path forward. To learn more, visit them at www.ezrahealing.com. And now back to the show.
But, the government seized a lot of your inventory. Part of me is like, I want justice here. And I feel like this is a massive lawsuit against the Canadian government. There should be a lawsuit here. Have you fought back, Svetlana, and have you got this inventory back? What are you doing actively to, I know we can just say, you know what, screw you guys, and we're being solution-based here, and we're going to kind of create avenues. But I'm the type of guy that's like, yes, I believe in forgiveness, but I also believe in justice. And I feel like, we need to hold the government officials accountable. Here in America, the government works for the people. The people are the government. And I'm a staunch gun-toting patriot here. And, the Constitution was not there to restrict the people here in America. The Constitution was there to restrict the government. And I don't know about the Canadian government, but I don't know if you have a constitution there, but what are you doing to fight back against the government?
Unfortunately, the Canadian government changes the goalposts weekly. They can literally write something down on a piece of paper and show it to you and say, this is the current law. So I only have so much energy in my body, and it's really important for me where I put that energy.
Yes.
So I decided to, pick my battles wisely and focus again just on solutions based, because that is where my heart is. So I move towards what excites me. It doesn't excite me to, think about suing the Canadian government. It excites me to continue to bring solutions to people who are suffering with vaccine injuries or cancer healing. And that's what I've just, intentionally chosen to do.
Amen. I think that was well said. There's, you never know what the future holds as well. And I think that, maybe God will put that on your heart down the road, just as I have been I've been in legal battles with RFK Jr. He's supported me in our lawsuit here against the Trust News Initiative, which the Department of Justice actually just backed us in our lawsuit here in July. And they said that we are in the right. And I believe that good people will see your story and your testimony, maybe go to bat for you, and maybe help defend people like you that have been a victim of a tyrannical government. And I do believe that good people are definitely fighting for those official roles in this government, and that there are good people that will see this and will stand for the truth. Just as Bobby Kennedy and other people in our government have really defended this stance. I mean, you look at the ACIP now making recommendations, pulling hepatitis B off the recommended schedule. Now they need to pull the mRNA. They need to rip the Band-Aid off and say, okay, these mRNA vaccines were harmful, causing harm. I mean, I know in being in the health field, we have more myocarditis, pericarditis, cancers than ever before. I mean, you've been in this health field. What are some of the things that you've seen that have skyrocketed just in the last 4 years?
Well, I mean, I'm only in this industry because the vaccines have caused so much cancer. And when you have something, like a parasitic infection growing inside of you, it affects, every other organ system. So, I mean, people are overwhelmed. Yes. People are taking so many medications, for example. So at Ezra Healing, we really try to dissect what people need to be on and what they don't. The saying is, what you don't put in your body right now is more important than what you do. So we're really trying to, help people come off their cholesterol pills, for example, because this interrupts your vitamin D pathways. The recommended vitamin D from the medical mafia literally just went up from 400 IUs to 10,000 IUs. So, the truth is really starting to leak out at a faster and faster rate. And we're just here to support the truth. And I think people who have been misled by their family doctor, on purpose or not, they're not going to want to go back to that same care provider because the trust has been broken. So, we have an amazing opportunity, like you said, Ben, to create something new and to allow, people to regain public trust in real healthcare. Real healthcare should not be complicated. And I think, you're talking about this, de-stress model. It's taking away some of the very toxic things that are right there in our environment.
It's so well. I mean, you said toxic environment. So many people think that we're sick because of bad genes or bad luck. And or how do you say it? Bad germs, and really that's just bad science. Most of 98% of this disease is a disturbed condition due to toxicities or deficiencies. And so in that regard, has your paradigm shifted in your view of disease, because you were in a hospital or type clinical setting and you have done a complete 180 from that field? Your eyes have been opened, and now it's like your wings are expanding. Your paradigm has shifted. Not only that, it's like you've seen the light, you've seen the truth here, and now you're on a mission to expose some of these lies. And so it's fascinating to see. It's encouraging and inspiring. So
Ben, healthcare got way too complicated. Okay, it's more like death care.
yeah.
For example, all the secondary screening that's recommended in the medical mafia system is absolutely not essential. It creates problems. So, not only are we talking about vaccine injuries and over medication, but we're talking about, say, the secondary screening that came in so hot and heavy. Get your mammogram, get your pap, get your prostate, get your biopsies. These are the traumatic experiences that people are leaving the system with, that sometimes linger on for a long time. I mean, a biopsy is not benign. So many people develop infections from a biopsy, trauma from a colonoscopy, trauma from a mammogram, trauma from a pap smear. So we're really trying to educate people and make them see, what, maybe you don't need that secondary screening. Maybe you don't need routine blood tests. I mean, can we really trust, lab values even anymore from the medical system? I don't. I'm always asking, questions, critically thinking. And I think this is a great time to say, hey, we're going to do our own research. And what really is research? Well, to me, it's qualitative data. It's a patient testimony,
Right.
and when we start to develop, high numbers of qualitative data, we can start pulling so much real research from that. And, I'm doing informal or formal studies all the time. To me, exercise has always been the best medicine. So going through this healthcare system, not seeing exercise prescribed as a number one prescription, it blew my mind. So
Yes.
if we can just get back to exercise as medicine, let food be thy medicine,
Amen.
those are the top two things that will help heal people. The sunshine is not our enemy. The sunshine does not cause cancer. The sunshine
Right.
is our friend. I mean, these plants behind me, if they didn't receive all the sunshine that they do, they would be withering away. But look how beautiful they are. So, I instruct people not to wear sunscreen anymore. Maybe just sit in the shade instead of going out with your sunscreen. It's just small things like this. Folic acid. Stop ingesting folic acid, especially pregnant women. This is what causes miscarriages and spina bifida, truly. So it's these things that we have been born and ingrained with that we're going to start to, unlearn.
Right.
Unlearning is actually harder than learning right now, because there is such a disbelief that we were led down such a toxic and path of betrayal for a business model just to make money. And I think the saddest thing that has come out of this are the children that are sick, that will be disabled forever, that put a massive burden on families and parents. So, if we can stop vaccination, routine childhood vaccination, that is the biggest win that will stop the chronic disease down the road. And that's why, we're seeing on social media, and I really hope it's true, that the US administration is now putting a full review on childhood vaccinations. If we can stop that, we stop chronic disease. And that is so exciting. I mean,
Yes.
and don't you and I want to be put out of a job eventually because everybody's so healthy?
Yeah.
That is my goal. That's my
Amen.
passion, right?
Yeah.
So
Amen.
I eventually don't want to be needed. And then I will feel, okay, God, I did my job. I listened to your orders, and look at everybody's healed.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be fantastic. And I'm right there with you. And I share those same convictions and passions. I mean, our heart is for the people to be well. And this is why, we understand that vaccine injury is very real. It's not rare. So many children are suffering. They have died. Families are suffering because of vaccine injury. And this is a real thing. So I'm curious to know, you said you help people with vaccine injury. Kind of walk me through that and what that looks like, Svetlana.
Yeah. From my understanding, people know when their body is off, and we're encouraging people to get back in tune with their body. So we're doing our best to market ourselves as an organization that will truly listen to the story that you have to say and not be ghosted, not, no shame or guilt in your story. I believe if people have the opportunity to be heard, that's 50% of healing. So, we're open to hearing your symptoms of your body going through something, maybe post vaccination. Maybe it wasn't the COVID-19 vaccine. Maybe it was your tetanus shot. Maybe it was your updated Hep B shot. Maybe it was, something, but anything to do with vaccines. We're a group of, once formerly in the matrix healthcare providers who understand that vaccine injury is real. We're a safe place to land and hear your story and provide our expertise. We've been in this business now, unfortunately, for 4 years, and we've heard a lot of stories. And vaccine injuries can look, so many different ways. But I believe if we can start to eliminate the amount of vaccinations that people get, we will become a much healthier planet, and the chronic disease will just lower. Less heart attacks, less diabetes, less inflammation, less pain, less brain injuries, the nervous system, right? Vaccines target the nervous system. And talk about stress. You may be so stressed and you don't even know why. Maybe it was from a vaccine. So let's start to eliminate some of these toxic poisons that people are, doing to keep their job or to keep their community safe. And there's going to be a sacrifice because, we are in a tyrannical takedown. We are in a genocide. Let's just be honest about that. We are in a genocide. So they, the tyrants don't want to see you well, and you're going to have to make some sacrifices, but you're going to be rewarded for those sacrifices, I believe.
Well said, 100%. I loved what you had to say about just listening to the patients, going back to listening. How many doctors are not even listening to the people? What you're describing is something that is very near and dear to my heart. The number one thing a patient cares about their provider is whether or not they care. Do they care about their patients? In my practice, Svetlana, I had my clinic was very, as a thriving clinic. We had a wait list. We were helping and serving so many people. But I changed my mission statement to love people, and that was it. And I feel like that was the catalyst for a shift in my practice. The way I viewed people. I didn't view them as a number. I truly cared and loved, and I told my staff, everyone that walks in the door, we're going to care and love for them. And that shifted everything, and it became such a referral-based practice. And when you care about your people, like what you're saying, you're listening and having those conversations to the patients, that moves mountains. And you don't. It's not at that point, to me, it's what you're truly serving them. You're caring for them. You're loving them. And it almost becomes a ministry at that point. And that's the way I view healthcare. We're here to help them and serve them get well. They're suffering, they're struggling, they're going through these issues. And now you're helping them get well. So I love what you have to say. I love what the mission is behind Ezra Healing. I just want to leave this. I'm going to give you the last few minutes here. Svetlana, I want you to just basically give a word of encouragement for people that are stuck in this this mindset. They have become their diagnosis. They have become their situation. They feel hopeless. They might have a vaccine injury. A lot of our listeners have, maybe they had the vaccine regret syndrome. They whether or not with themselves or their children. A lot of our listeners are struggling with injuries. A lot of our listeners, they're awake to this tyranny. So I want to give you the last word of how can people get well, first off, and then where can they get maybe the help they need from you and Ezra Healing, and give you the final word of encouragement.
Thank you, Ben. It's never too late. It is never too late to help yourself. It is never too late to reach out, and it is never late to get a bolus of hope. If you're out there and feeling hopeless, that you don't know where to turn, we have done our absolute best to bring down any barriers to connect with you. At Ezra Healing, we have a free 15-minute appointment with a former registered nurse, and she is willing to listen to you, to offer hope and healing. Now, you don't have to suffer alone. You were never alone, and I'm so sorry you were made to feel alone. You are not alone anymore. We are here just to love on you, to listen to you, and to provide a mindset for you to live your best life. And we really look forward to seeing you. EzraHealing.com. Reach out. And nothing is impossible. When did impossible ever stop you? We look forward to hearing from you.
Awesome. Well said, Svetlana. Well, I'm just so thankful for you. I'm thankful for Ezra Healing. I'm thankful that you had the courage to stand in the gap. I just love the conversation that we had today. We'll have to bring you back on here soon, and just kind of keep the train moving forward here, and really just keep this conversation going. I pray that this conversation inspired you. Please share this podcast. Please share this episode. Go to Ezra Healing. Go support them. Get that consult with these people. These people are changing the world for the better. They're helping people get well. And I'm here to tell you that your body's ability to be well is far greater than anyone, including our government, has permitted you to believe. You can be well if you give the body what it needs. God bless you guys. Thank you for supporting this podcast, and be well.
To August of last year, nobody really knew who I was.
There's about 12 people who are producing 65% of anti-vaccine misinformation.
We need to come together as Americans and realize that we have a war at hand here. Right?
Like, dude, how scared of this shit do you have to be to be wearing gloves, a face shield, a mask at this point?
Help us to urge folks and say to them, look, it's time to roll up your sleeve and get the shot.
Chiropractor in Omaha, Nebraska, responsible for 65% of the anti-vaccine misinformation. Put what I say to the test. Just don't write me off as crazy misinformation.
Doctor, please bring your cell phone over.
600,000 people will die of cancer. 300,000 people will die of obesity this year. When is enough enough?